We're living through interesting times at the moment. Once bustling streets and places typically filled with tourists reduced to ghost towns during the height of the pandemic in Queensland. We haven't felt the devastating physical toll of the virus here in the outback. In fact, for the most part, we've been really lucky. But that doesn't mean it's been business as usual. As far as sport, and in particular for me, running goes, the already limited selection of events have all but dried up, like the cracked brown land I train on. This has posed an interesting challenge for myself and other runners, deep into a training block with their hearts set on testing their limits and going for some all-time PBs. Now, I'm not someone that needs motivation or an end goal to go out and do something I actually enjoy doing, but I do get a kick out of competition, so having something meaningful I can work towards and strive for will always bring a little bit more out of me rather than just moseying around for fun. So, faced with no events, no training groups and no races, I've decided to make something happen myself. And thus the 2020 sub 3 hour marathon journey begins. Dad always says that running is just one foot in front of the other. And in the usual circumstances, those are words to live by. But to make my running dream a reality, I'll have to put a bit more thought into this than usual. There are two main challenges, training and the course itself. I'll explain why training is a little bit different this time around in a tick, but first, let's tackle the course. Longreach, like most of outback Queensland, is dry, hot, and dead flat. Running a marathon around town isn't an option. Without shutting down streets and intersections like a standard race, I won't have time to look both ways. And unfortunately, kilometres travelled in the back of an ambulance don't count towards the 42.195 I need to clock up to make a marathon. So that's gonna mean looking outside of town. I'm no stranger to the area outside of Longreach known as the Common. In fact, 90% of my training is done out here. Despite it being mostly flat, underfoot is a mix of dirt, sand, rocks, and the odd kangaroo carcass. So the trick is finding somewhere reasonably fast and ensuring there is a central point I can pass for myself and my support crew to top up on nutrition. It's taken me many weeks of scouting and trial running, but I think I may have found the final destination. All right, so here we are, the Longreach Cemetery, which is the starting point of my marathon endeavor, I should say. Essentially, what will happen is, right here in front of me is this gate. Well, that'll be dead on with the starting line and roughly the finish line, but it's not going to be an exact 42K, so I might have to run past the start of the finish line at the end, run up towards that way, and then come back and finish it by a few hundred meters or whatever. But yeah, essentially this will be where everyone's set up, right here behind me on this strip here. I passed through this strip like 4 or 5 times, which is great. I'll be able to refill on my water, get some gels, some support. Really looking forward to that. I'll have my grandma and my mum in town, as well as a bunch of my friends who'll come out and support me as well. So without further ado, I'm going to put my biceps to the test here, and I'm going to run with this camera on the entire way for the 10K loop that makes up the entire course. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. All right, so the start is pretty simple. It is a long straight road for the first kilometre and a bit, and from there you'll see we jump on to an off-road section. Now, while I mosey about the course and interject occasionally with points of interest, let's talk training. Months ago, when I started running again, I dusted off some of my trusty old programs from my days of training under triathlon champion and all-round good bloke Nick Croft, and started making my way through them week by week by myself. But when I really got serious about the sub 3 hour marathon, I came to realize this wouldn't be enough, as I had a lot of questions and needed a strategy to follow on race day, as well as in the lead up. So I gave Nick a call and we got stuck into the nitty-gritty of why my running program functions the way it does.
So most people have a goal race or an event or several that they want to achieve, or if they do a lot of different distances in running, for example, where they might go up to the half marathon or beyond, they have their obviously goal distances or their best results over, say, 5 or 10k half marathon. So depending on what the particular goal might be at the end of a phase or a block, then making sure you have an idea of what that goal is going to be, what their current run fitness, ability, speed over various distances is, so you can realistically set paces for runs that are what we call interval or more speed type sessions, or a tempo session, which tempo is for example, if you're running a marathon and like yourself, your goal is to do the 3 hours, well, the tempo pace is still a good 20-25 seconds a kilometre faster than your actual marathon pace.
You get the odd car out here, but it's pretty much all to yourself. And here we are, actually, right at the end of the loop, one of the top ends of the loop, turning now into some softer stuff, but still, all in all, pretty good. We're heading into what locals call the common. Basically, it's just a big free open area. People are just stock out here. You'll have kids on motorbikes, people in their four-wheel drives that'll come and camp out here as well. All kinds of stuff going on. But for me, it's my favourite place to run. And this particular course is one of my favourite loops to run as well, so that's why I've chosen it for the marathon. Alright, so this crossing here, don't want to be too dramatic, but it is one of the more treacherous crossings of the trip. Very uneven, just a bunch of concrete sticking out everywhere, a bit of jumping involved, especially towards the end of the run when maybe you're dragging your feet one foot after the other. Got to lift them high there, charge through it. That's also, that's the hill section too. There's a few big hills like this one to watch out for. Just kidding. But if we're looking for difficult parts of the track, it definitely adds up in there. Now right here is looking good because we had a bit of rain recently. First rain in a long time actually. But it's normally soft sand, very soft. So hopefully come race day, she stays like this, but I've got a feeling, if I know how it works, it'll tend to go back to being pretty sandy, which is quite unpleasant to run on. But as I was mentioning with the wind before, right now it's at my back, it's at my tail. So got to appreciate it when you can. It's not always bad. But also, when I'm doing interval training, fartlek and all that kind of stuff, this is where I tend to go. This stretch right here that you're looking at, it's about just over 800 meters. So halfway along it, 400, I can sort of measure it that way. Get my 200s in, 800s are real easy, do some miles. It's just this stretch right here, I'll ride my bike out and do my interval training speed work right here. Extra challenging because the ground isn't normally quite as nice.
You can hold tempo for a lot longer than, say, holding if you're doing 1 kilometre efforts at your 5k or 10k pace, or if you're doing what we call a VO2 max pace, where in a line with a VO2 max test, which goes for about 12 minutes, a VO2 max pace is a very intense, and that's probably about the most intense you want to, as an endurance runner, that's probably about the most intense you'd want to sort of make your efforts. That means you would be running to exhaustion at about 12 minutes. So, it might be, obviously people that can run, 3 kilometres at 4-minute K pace, that'd be for them, and that's their max effort. That's for your, 3K time trial, for example. So a lot of the time we don't run up to 12 minutes at VO2 max pace. We might do segments where we might do a 2-minute efforts with a short recovery, or 3 or 4-minute efforts. So we're getting you to learn how to run faster than your race pace. So race pace seems actually sort of comfortable.
Right as we go through the gates here, back in the wind, we hit the 5K mark. Halfway through the loop, would you believe? Perfect. And you might recognise where I'm running towards. That's right, that's the long straight road I started on. So I'll head left here, head back towards the cemetery and into the small loop, as I call it. About 4Ks the small loop is, and about 1 kilometre from here to there, so that'll up to 10. If you can keep up with the quick maths there. Yeah. So right along here, probably my favourite part. I'm on bitumen. It's very, very easy to run on, very smooth, flat surface. And B, right up in this parking lot area on your right and on your left in front of the cemetery itself, that'll be where my support crew is. Cheering me on, giving up their Saturday morning. Probably be cold as well, but they'll be here cheering for me, which is, I can't thank them enough for it.
Obviously, there always becomes a point where that race pace is not comfortable, because you're obviously pushing the limits and you're in the last quarter of the race. Generally, you're starting to really feel it at that point, but you wouldn't feel, if you go out at the proper pace and can pace yourself, that first half of the race at a projected realistic race pace you've trained well for, won't feel too, and you're fresh and you're motivated and you're up and you've got the right nutrition and all those things line up. And you've come in and you've tapered and you feel fresh. I mean, that first 50% of the race will feel like you're floating along, and then when it starts to bite, you're going to be able to dig in, and that's when you can hopefully do a personal best or achieve that particular goal.
Here we go. Here's some good stuff right here. Soft, hilly, rocky. It's a cocktail of everything you don't want, quite frankly. Especially worse, as I mentioned before, that this will be in the last few kilometres of the race, heading towards the finish line, into the wind. Woo! Let's not think too much about that. Whoa! Okay, I didn't sink into the mud there. Clearly the water that's come through has really changed the terrain, but I expect it to be different again on race day. But just ahead on your left is the other end of the loop. So we've been to both tippy top ends. I'll cut this corner a bit to make it a bit smoother. Here we go.
Obviously, at the end of the day, for a marathon, the most important session of the week always is the longer run, because it's a strength that you need over strength endurance over pure speed.
And as we turn the final corner of loop 1, this car comes my way. That's it. That's the end of the loop. And I'm back. Everyone's cheering. We knew you could do it. You're the king, man. That's right, that's right. Boom. Right at the start again.
So there you have it, the marathon course in all its glory, as well as a little bit more of an idea of the training I've been putting in to get my fitness level in the right place. All that's left now is the marathon, which I'll hopefully be showing you a finished version of in the third and final episode of Below 3. Thanks for watching.